podcast. We suck. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to do it.
Go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Havoc Fishing Podcast. This is episode, I've lost count, 6? I can't count that high.
That's all right. The guest knows.
The guest knows.
What episode we're on.
Yeah. Man of superior knowledge. Yeah. But I would like to introduce everybody to the one and only Richard Full Scent Penny. The myth.
Ooh, Full Scent.
Yes,
Full Scent. I realize that's why my name's Half Scent.
Yeah, I know, I realize that, but it's still too fun.
Half Scent, half a rep, you know.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. We need to stop with that half a rep stuff.
Half a rep.
That's solid.
It's not solid. What's solid is the Half Scent.
If you would have sold a boat, you would have been a full rep.
Why are we talking about the demo day that happened like 2 weeks ago?
Well, I mean, that's how I came up with half a rep.
Oh, my God.
All right. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing outstanding.
Excellent.
I'm great.
I'm doing great. I just got back from Rayburn, so I'm feeling
good. You had a good time at Rayburn.
Yeah, I wish I was not here and still fishing.
Still fishing? Yeah.
I feel like I needed some justice because of how effed I was that entire time. He's at work, so we went to Rayburn for that Hobie event, and he just has a crankbait and slings that thing every day, and I'm pretty sure it was like 10 fish a day for him. And I think the entire trip I had like 4 or 3 or 4.
That's probably.
You only caught 4 fish or 3 fish on Rayburn?
I was throwing almost the same thing he was, but apparently this one special crankbait that you can't find anymore did the trick. And by the way, I did find it. It's actually in my tackle box
he
now. found mine.
His packed away in the shop.
Here. Yeah,
it's not my fault. I bought him 1 year ago.
So was it the back of the boat curse, or was it just?
I was in the back of the boat.
I threw him in the ass end.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Dad was in the back of the boat
seated
with the dog.
Yeah, you've got no excuses.
No, I just suck.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Well,
None.
The first key to fixing your problem is admitting you have one.
Which he did.
I have a problem.
He did. He admitted it actually early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
No, I did.
But it was a good time at Rayburn for sure. And, excellent event for Hobie. We went up a week ahead, earlier in the week, and which was our plan. But AJ put on a really good event, as always, between he and Steve Field. So good seeing that. Great time seeing people that I've known in this industry, the fish tournaments, for years. Jake grew up around back when he was but a wee lad.
Yep.
What a wee lad.
But a wee lad.
But a wee lad.
But so it was, really good time, and I really wasn't ready to come home because the bite was really, fish were really getting up shallow, and with weather kind of cooling off a bit, it's about to be like on. So it's gonna be a fun time.
Rayburn's gonna be on fire.
Should be if it wasn't like 8 feet low.
It should make the fish even easier to catch. They all gotta go.
You think
you're narrowing it down,
right? But for me,
to him, though.
But for me, it was terrible.
Oh.
I thought about maybe a big seine net out of the front of the boat for him.
Well, don't they have bait ponds around there somewhere?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Everybody knows your awesomeness in the kayak industry and in the paddle sports industry itself, but can you tell everybody what you did before you were in this industry making waves?
Yeah, a lot of people that know me know. I just did 30 years in the Navy. Submarines, special projects, spec war, kind of. The fortunate part for me is I was allowed to kind of dabble in a little bit of everything, which that doesn't really exist anymore. You can't jump from one community to the next. I was allowed to do that. Very blessed with it. Learned a lot. I think really in every community that I got to work with, which was cool, and have great friends to this day from those communities. But, joined the Navy back when I was 21 and did damn near 30 years. By the time it was all over, it was 30 years total. And, no complaints. Retired as a, Master Chief and happy Skippy camper.
That's a accomplishment in itself, just being Master Chief. That's rare.
Yeah, very fortunate and I think at every turn it was just like right place at the right time, or having really good mentors that kind of guided me along the way. No, because look, I'm an ADHD kid, and I needed to go do different stuff. I couldn't just the same thing over and over. It wouldn't have worked. It would not have worked at all. And going back to my my first command, seagoing. I had, really good friends there that supported, kind of my mindset. And kind of, I guess at the end of the day, that was back in the day. You work hard, you party harder. You did some time in the Marines, you know how that goes. And, but just got support along the way. And I've just been, like I said, very blessed at the end of the day. When it's all said and done, just a very blessed guy that was right place, right time. And then I didn't always know when to shut my mouth, but kind of figured it out. At some point you figure out, it's probably time I need to shut up and listen.
2 ears, 1 mouth.
Thank you. And it is one of my deals. I tell him a lot. 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. And the other one too, and it's one of these things that I tell the kids. It's that, and I learned this at one point, it's do the right thing. And that right thing isn't what's always written, but you just effing do the right thing. And that, from a leadership perspective, as I got more senior and, in command as, chief of the boat, command master chief, you do the right thing for people. And at the end of the day, what is it, 60% of the time it works 100% of the time?
60% of the time it works every time.
Every time, yeah. Thank you, Anchorman. Well played. But I know more movie one-liners than I probably know anything else, which is probably pathetic. But at the end of the day. But yeah, I just think it's that deal. You do the right thing for the people, because without them, I don't care who you're not succeeding. And that was always my thing. It was a relationship deal, and that suited me and my mindset real well. And I think that at the end of the day, that was the reason I was successful.
So it's safe to say you can kick Chuck Norris's ass.
No, I wouldn't have for Chuck Norris.
No, I think you can.
Yeah, that's a bad man.
No, I don't think he's using the total gym anymore. I think that's kind of gone away.
Yeah, probably not.
You think so?
Yeah, you got it.
Got it? You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Spider Monkey. I should call him.
Yeah.
Call Chuck.
Part of this podcast is hard for me to do because a lot of the things we want to ask, I know answers to.
Well, you know answer to, and you grew up around it.
That too.
So it's
kind of like how it all started for us or for you. I should say.
You know me with the kayak stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
mainly of just how did you exited, being in the Navy, which.
Well, I didn't, but I hadn't exited yet. If you think about it, I came back from deployment. I had orders to stay initially when I went on deployment. I had orders to stay in San Diego.
Yep.
I came back, and they're like, "Oh, hey, we need you to go fill this spot up in Los Angeles at a recruiting district." And I'll save all the expletives and comments that I had for that hit parade when that happened. When I was going through divorce at the time. And the last thing I wanted to do was move to LA.
Yeah.
Obviously, as an Astros fan, I'm not a Dodgers fan. We can just start with that. But and by the way, if you think Mexican food in LA is good, you're incorrect. It's
terrible.
It's San Diego. You got to go south.
Closer to the border, the better.
Correct. So, I didn't want to be in LA, and regardless, went up there, and it was a great command. Loved that command, and worked with a lot of fantastic people. So it ends up being a blessing in disguise. And the other thing that happens is, I lived in Redondo Beach. I couldn't find, as you remember, there was no place to park my damn bass boat.
No. The bass boat that's now in the shop.
The bass boat's now in the big shop.
Yeah.
But there's no place to park this boat. And so in my head, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so we are like in the winter, sitting on the couch on a Sunday, rainy day, and watching World Fishing Network, WFN, and there's this kayak fishing show that comes on with Chad Hoover, and I'm like, oh, kayaks, followed by a kayak fishing show with Jim Sammons, and I'm like, oh, kayaks, maybe that's an option. So I Craigslist did the thing, and we got kayaks, and so we kind of really tried that out, and to be honest, it was that deal of, it just kind of went off to the races. I went and put that kayak on the water, went and fished some spots that I would normally fish in a boat, and I started catching much bigger fish. Mm-hmm. Nothing else changed. I didn't change the way I fished, other than I didn't want to paddle, when I'd normally start the outboard or get on the trolling motor and go somewhere. I did not want to have to get on the paddle and go that damn far. So it made me more patient as a fisherman. And I started catching some double-digit bass. And real quickly, I'm like, oh, this kayak thing's pretty damn cool. very fortunate. Had a buddy of mine let me keep my boat in San Diego at his house, and it really just sat there under a cover for, I don't know, a year. So, but that was kind of what got it started. We did that, and it was through that process that, I ended up in my first Jackson kayak. Had to drive we drove 8 hours to Dan up at Headwaters Kayak with Brandon Miller.
It was a long time.
And did that deal. Picked up my Kilroy. That was the first boat, first Jackson that I had. My first kayak was a Malibu Stealth 12, weighed like 60 billion tons.
Well, we got a pair of them. We got
and you had
the
the
12.
Yep.
And what was it, a 9.5?
No, you had the Mini X.
No.
Yeah.
No, it was a 9.5.
No, it was a Mini X, dude.
You are on some ish.
There's somebody at some submission that's not dead. Good talk. Anyway, so he gets this Mini X. Yeah, that was the deal. He's going to sit there and drink now. But, so the Mini X, that I think went away pretty quick. He jumped in the Stealth 12, and I got my Kilroy. But we just it was that thing. It just all kind of fit. And it's that piece of it, too. It's just at the right place, right time. Follow your gut. And that just kind of led to, at some point, I reached out to, there was no real tournament scene going on in Southern California where I was at. The NorCal guys had some stuff going, and it was a tournament scene that had kind of faltered. And so I reached out to Hoover and talked to him about, kayak bass fishing and that kind of stuff. And for work, I had to fly out to Tennessee. And so at one point I, flew out. And while I was there, I had my rental car and I drove, my happy ass to Hook One and spent the weekend picking Chad's brain on tournament stuff because we weren't doing it out west. I grew up on the tournament side in Texas, but boat tournaments and kayak tournaments are a little bit different. And so you try to learn everything. And so that was really the deal. And so from that point, it was just kind of off to the races.
You were actually employed with KBF for a while.
Yeah, and so I did that from, I don't know, it's probably there like 3-4 years. Ended up director of operations for KBF, and but worked with Joe Hobbenrich a lot. He did a lot of stuff and had been working a lot in the background with Chad. And so worked with Chad, worked with Christy Hoover as well. Met Christy, well before she and Chad were ever married, but we made a lot of good progress at KBF at the time.
And you think about it, that's kind of how your name became what it is now in the industry.
Yeah, that's where it started for sure.
And people, there's a plane going by.
That's a helicopter.
That's not a plane, by the way.
Sorry, it's a helicopter. Listen,
You know what that means? You're good.
Okay. So, like I was saying, it's kind of how your name became what it is now. I should say I don't even want to involve myself. I was going to say the Penny name, but I'll just put Richard Penny as it is.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just, I think it just goes back to you do that. I can go back to that. Do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that was the deal with that tournament scene. I think you just had to, 1 mouth, 2 ears, listen.
Yeah. Well, the thing is you didn't start as the director of operations for KBF.
No. Yeah,
starting out back when we were still in SoCal, started up SoCal Kayak Anglers.
Yep.
Made that scene real big. Started up the California Kayak Bass Fishing after you had talked with Chad and all that.
Yeah, we started California Kayak Bass Fishing, and then at the same time, we had, talked with James Snyder quite a bit, and because he was looking at taking over. I think it was the Delta Bass Series that didn't last or whatever. I forgot the whole. There's stuff that goes along with every one of these things that's not worth mentioning, but they were looking at starting a club, and so Wes Jones. We talked to Wes Jones a bit, talked to James, and at the end of the day, just kind of provided them with some stuff that I had, frankly, from Road Rangers Bass Club that I was doing boat tournaments with in San Diego, and that just kind of led to it all, and just really just helped out, and that was the key of just be helpful. And it goes back to that: do the right thing, do things. What do the English need? What do we need to do to make this sport grow? And I'll be honest, incredible support. I mean, Yak Attack was great. I mean, I could pick up the phone and, hey, we need X, Y, Z, and Yak Attack would just like, we got it, and they'd send product. And that was the other thing too that, Chad and Christy were exceptionally helpful with, was just getting product from manufacturers that wanted to build, the sport. NRS at the time was really involved with KBF. They were extremely helpful. And so it was just that piece of, I don't want to say squeaky wheel, but just, we had a lot of people that really just wanted to turn. I don't know if it was really, they're so hardcore about tournament fishing. And I go back to, I don't remember if it was Jackabass and I think it was. I think James and those guys get the credit for it, the Fish and Chill.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember
so
those,
when you kind of go into that, hey, look, we're just going to do a Fish and Chill, but at the same time, there's a little cash on the side, whatever, for big bass or the top 5, you're judging. You don't have Tourney X at the time, right? You're judging. Yeah, you're just judging everything on the bank. And so, but those things, I mean, that's how this all started, and it just continues to grow. James and Mike took the stuff with Yakabas to a completely another level. And we were running 100 and something anglers per tournament. I mean, which was fantastic.
You think about that's California.
Yeah,
right.
That's out west.
One at the time, no one would think that California could get that big in the fishing scene. Period. In freshwater side, or just the kayak scene in general. But
that's kind of when GB was making his debut.
Yeah.
That was actually when we started. It was just before that, and then I mean, and you're right though, but he just kind of jumps into the scene because he would he'd obviously from New York, been in Texas, and then moved out to Cali, and we've got some great photos from like Berryessa.
If you look for the viewers, if you go to the Yakabas,
you should
group
put
page,
that photo.
I'm
in
going
this.
to.
Yeah, put that photo. Yeah,
now
right about
that Yakabas group page. You take it's the homepage, the back of it. Is a picture of all of us. I think was that Berryessa?
I'm pretty sure it was a Berryessa.
Picture of all of us. You get to see me as a prepubescent little shit.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you got Dad next to you, but you have everybody, like all the OGs there.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And you have Greg like sitting in the middle. Now, one thing about that night that no one will talk about, but we'll talk.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. I'm not gonna say the comment that you said because it might have been. It was a little. Won't fly for today.
Yeah.
But holy crap, that's when we found out he can drink. We can put him to bed at like 3 a.m. He'll wake up at 4:30, get up and go fish. You could probably
put him to bed at 4, and by 4:15, he's right as rain.
And whoop everyone's ass the day after.
And look, skinny, that is not a big dude, right? You go, oh, well.
He's a swole house now.
He's a...
Yeah, they're bitch natives.
But, I mean, little bitty dude that can just, can handle his leg. Just be right as rain, ready to go, and just lay a beat down on people. It's freaking awesome.
There's always that one guy in the group.
Yeah, but it was, and that was that thing, though. So, and that's that people always ask, hey, well, man, are you happy to be back in Texas? Well, yeah, of course. I'm from here, and it's great. But there's a lot of those things where I don't miss the politics and the bullshit in California. That being said, I miss I miss the people. Those people that spend a lot of time with. He grew up around them.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome. It was a great time, and that's, and I want to get back out there and fish with him. Brandon Miller, that kid's a complete stick as well. In fact, that entire Dark Horse crew is just freaking awesome.
That entire crew, Mike Ensign, Alden Walden, Brandon Miller, now Obedy Williams, because I remember that Clear Lake tournament that we had, and we were told that the People's Champ was showing up, and I'm like, who the hell?
I still think.
This guy?
I really think at the end of the day, had I been able to pull it off, and it was kind of where it was kind of my exodus from KBF, but it was that deal of if I got to pick anybody to be an MC for a tournament, it'd be hands down, that guy is amazing.
I'd vote for O for president.
Yeah, just freaking, just awesome.
Got my vote.
Yeah,
man.
he's got my vote. Yeah.
No, but that entire crew, it's a great crew.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. We helped. You helped. I can't even say me. I just showed up and was like, I'm here. I'm skipping school today.
We've got some good school lessons learned for you on the water.
We did. Oh,
Clear Lake.
I found that clip
from Clear Lake.
That clip when you said that I was at
class.
school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was lifting
I'm
up
a
a
terrible
fish. It was so
parent.
fun. It was great.
It's a good thing like his mom was here visiting but walked in the house because it's like, oh yeah, that was
Oh,
another
God.
brilliant day on Dad's behalf.
But no, I mean helping with the Yakka Bass thing, and it's huge now too. You know, it still pulls 100.
Well,
plus
you know, now
anglers
they've got
each
the West
tournament.
Coast Championship, which James and Warren up in
Yep.
up in Oregon and Washington pulled off in
Don't
Idaho.
forget Arizona.
Oh God, no!
You cannot forget Arizona. Uncle Bryce, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, but that's enough. But that's I'm going north. The whole Arizona crew is another thing. I mean, that's another piece out west.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a different effing country. The way that thing works out west, it's like its own deal. Texas wants to be independent, it can be, but out west, it's kind of its own thing.
Out west with the whole tournament scene, you got Oregon, Marvin,
You got Idaho,
Utah.
Well,
Speaking of
Utah,
Cameron Rasmussen, bro.
Yeah.
What did he play? Second.
Second.
He placed second place at the Hobie event. Turns around, drives home same
right
day.
Last weekend.
He drives to California, fishes a Yakka Bass tournament. I think he's sitting in third.
Yeah.
I think the tournament's over, but he went from this tournament, drives God knows how long that drive was to NorCal, and fishes another tournament.
But that's the cool thing. Really, at the end of the day, for me, I mean, from doing this as long as I have, when you're sitting here in Texas, and you watch a kid, because to me he's a kid, from Utah that was really cutting his teeth over the last several years, doing as well as he's doing, fishing across the country. And I love it. You know what I mean? It's just success. And then the other one, too, we had our second, there's another, gal that finished in the top 10. So it wasn't just Christine, which, that was, see, it's great watching the sport just grow.
So it leads me to a question. You're, safe to say, one of the OGs and a legend in, founding tournament trails on the West Coast. So you've seen a lot of tournament trails come and go, fail and succeed. From when you started on this, have you seen a drastic change in the tournament industry? And what I mean is, with all the social media and stuff like that, the drama, the shenanigans, and all the malarkey that goes on.
That's a 25-part question. So, one, drama. I don't care if it's a boat tournament, kayak tournament, there's drama everywhere.
Absolutely.
You are always going to have it. You can't get around it. Don't care if it's fresh, salt, whatever. You got drama because we've got people that just need drama in their lives. Hands down. I think, when you kind of peel back the onion, you look at the tournament scene today. I think for the most part it's better. I think Hobie and Bass are doing a really good job. AJ puts on a fantastic effing tournament. It's just consistent, and they know what they're doing. It's I hate to say it's damn near wash, rinse, repeat, but that's kind of what it is, right? And I think the addition of Steve Fields really kind of helps that piece, especially with on the water, some safety, a lot of good photos and stuff that goes on with the anglers. And then Bass, I think Bass's smartest move was putting Steve Owens in a place that, and listening, frankly, to make the changes that were needed. And I think at the end of the day, if you really peel back that onion and go all the way back, to the KBF stuff, and you say, well, how did Hobie jump to the way it did? It was because there were things that KBF wouldn't listen to, frankly. They weren't willing to change that the anglers wanted. And, so how did, you got AJ, Jay Wallen, a few of these other cats that said, hey, we think we can do something better. And frankly, they did. And it's, I think the proof's out there. It shows.
Proof's in the pudding?
Proof's in the pudding, exactly.
So,
but that's that thing of, goes back to 2 ears, 1 mouth, right? If you're not willing to listen and grow with the sport, then at some point you kind of work yourself out of it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so, I think that, I think that it's going to continue to change. I'd like to see, personally, I'd like to see Hobie add motors to their tour. I think if they did that, they would, they'd be able to compete kind of head-to-head with Bass. I think that's the fundamental difference between the two at this stage of the game. And then at some juncture, it's kind of just continue to get these non-endemics and, have the economy recover to the point where, people are willing to invest in the tournament scene for these anglers to do this for a living. Because we've got there are plenty of them that are great freaking sticks out there that could do well in the tournament scene.
Now, you brought up a good thing with the motors and Hobie. I mean, with Hobie not allowing motors, I mean, they really cut out a large field of anglers that, like, if you take the autopilot, for example,
Yeah.
you have to have a motor in that boat. I mean, yeah, you could paddle it, but that'd be like paddling the USS Lexington around whatever lake you're on.
Yeah.
So I think if they open up their tournaments to motors, that would allow massive.
Yeah, and that's
influx.
obviously you guys both spend time in the industry, and it's clearly the way the market's been going there for years. This is no new news. I'm not making any comment that nobody doesn't already effing know, but at some juncture, I think Hobie's gonna have to do it, to compete with Bass, because look, Hobie, big company, Bass, big company, deep pocket, both of them relatively deep pockets when compared to any other tournament scene on the planet on the kayak side. So how are you going to compete head to head? And I think you have to. And like I said, Hobie runs a good event. You can't argue with that with the way the events are. So how do you maintain that competitive edge? I think you have to, not handicap your tournament director and the tournament scene. That's my opinion. You're kind of handicapping AJ and Steve with that, but I think they need to allow motors.
So here's the deal.
You're
You're giving the advice for tournament directors, right? To like, hey, this is what you think would better your tournament scene.
Yep.
You have the two top tournament directors in the kayak scene, Steve Owens, AJ.
Mm-hmm.
You're missing a third.
Duke.
Yourself.
Well, I mean, that was back in the day.
Now here's the deal, though.
What?
Back
Another
in
deal.
back in the day.
Back in the day. Another deal.
You ran
Sounds like a Star Wars intro.
the grid.
Ooh, big good Star
Look,
Wars.
I go what?
Could be a Star Wars episode.
Oh.
Star Wars plug. Head
Hey
out.
now. But no, back in the day,
Mhm.
you ran at the time it was
Yeah.
the biggest tournament trail in the U.S.
Then, yeah. But that
KBF,
was,
right?
2019. I mean, that's freaking 4 years
I
ago.
mean, ever since then, right?
But
do
it's
you
still
see the
4 years
trend
ago.
of when you left to where KBF went?
I'm not going to comment on that one.
Now, here's the deal.
That's not a comment.
Why do you think? No, I'm not going to ask that question. But
Just leave it alone.
but when you left, was that the right time?
Yeah, I mean, I left, and it's one of those things and I've never talked about it. I'm a follow my gut person,
Yeah.
And I just felt like at the time it was time for me to kind of do something different. And I already knew that I was looking at moving back here to Texas. There was all these things kind of going on internally. And I just felt like it was a time for me to kind of walk away from KBF. I'd already started with Jackson as a rep.
Yep.
And I knew in my head where I wanted that business to go. And it wasn't just with Jackson. I mean, it's obviously very loyal to that brand because that's a brand really I started with and as a team guy. But I just kind of felt like it was the time. And there were some differences of opinions in there. That just is what it is. But I was ready to kind of go to that ADHD thing. I was ready to kind of move on, do something else, and the timing was right. And I to this day don't disagree with my thought process on that timing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go back and go, "Oh, I was a genius."
Yeah.
And with my ADHD brain, I need that genius statement. It makes me feel better. So.
Yeah. Well, leaving that, but the way you left,
Very quietly.
no one really knew.
No one knew. I was
until people saw another tournament director or another director of operations show up.
Yep.
Do you think you'll ever come out of your retirement?
I don't think so. I mean, I've talked to US Angling, helped with an event here in Cookeville here back in June.
Yep.
In all honesty, had a really good time with it. We've talked about doing that. There's just some variables there, and first and foremost, I mean, obviously, I'm a parent. I still, single parent. I have a daughter at home. You're here, but
Wait,
you're an adult.
Hold on.
You're here,
I have a daughter at home. That's not me.
Yeah, it's not you, but But I mean, you know, I've got a daughter. So she, you know, Charlotte's not done with high school yet, and
She's
so
close.
she's close. But at the same time, I mean, so I've got responsibilities at home,
Yeah.
right? So that's first and foremost the deal.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like in my head, just kind of play around with it and go, you know, does it make sense? Does it fit? And the other piece of it is I've got a business to run, and it kind of goes hand in hand with. I mean, you only got so much time in the day.
Well, people really don't understand. I mean to cut you off, but
it's all right.
they don't understand that how much work goes into being a tournament director.
There's I mean, if I'll tell you, I mean, for entertainment podcast, I mean, seriously, would be AJ, Steve Owens, probably Duke, Tran here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd be happy to sit in on it, but and there's probably a couple others throughout the country. James Snyder actually would be another one. I'm damn near left the West Coast out. Probably gonna get shot
We
tomorrow.
went on a whole spiel about it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And you left it out.
but in Marvin,
Actually,
you know, up in Oregon. But I mean, but if you put a group did a round table with like 6 experienced tournament directors and say, what kind of time does this really take? I think people be kind of like, oh crap, you got to do all of that. Especially if you get out west and you got to permits,
dude,
damn near a year ahead of time. I mean,
It's
that crap's
ridiculous.
absurd.
I remember going to get permits with you and James.
Yeah.
For the year,
For the next year,
and
yeah.
we're still
So, I
fishing
mean,
the current one.
And then, you know, look, and here's the deal. You are never, ever, ever going to satisfy every angler. It's never going to happen.
No.
And as much as you try and you want to, you can't, you know, you're just not going to do it. And then there's decisions that you have to make during the tournament. And you learn a lot of things that, you know, man, I think we should change this. And then you change it because you think it was the right thing to do. And you realize, yeah, I probably F that up by doing it. I mean, so there's a lot of these things that happen. You know, you try to grow with it. And some people are understanding of it and some, frankly, are not. And it's kind of hard to be pissed off on either side of that coin because at the end of the day, they're probably both right.
Yeah, and all the work, I would say 90% of the work that a tournament director does is behind the scenes.
Oh,
yeah. People don't like, a friend of mine or 2 friends of mine, you know, Chris Delgado and Chris Morales, they run Texas Kayak Bassley, which, in my opinion,
Texas Slim, man, that's another one. He's active as hell, and you know that dude stays busy.
Very, and to me, that is probably one of the best run tournament trails, if not the best in the state. I mean, those guys are very involved in the trail.
Yep.
They know what's going on. Yeah, Slim fishes every tournament, but Slim's just out there to have a good time.
Yeah. Oh,
and
God, yeah.
And he is. You want to talk about a Texas version of the People's Champ?
You know what? I would agree with that. We just had a few drinks on Friday night with him, but
you had a few drinks.
Yeah, you're right. I did. Yeah. But yeah, no, he's another one. He's freaking awesome.
Yeah, he's hilarious. And
you know,
he's just a ball to be around. But yeah, I don't think tournament directors get the credit that they deserve.
I think some do, but for the most part, I'd agree that they really don't. Here's the deal. I never ever felt like I did not get enough credit out west. Still, I mean, even like he goes out west and he'll fish a tournament and they'll realize what his last name is. They're like, oh crap, I know your dad is. Oh, for the love of God, and it's all complimentary. And they were that way when I was there. They're that way after I've left. You know, and even just running into people, you know, here in Texas when I just show up, because I mean, I'll show up at an event just to see the anglers, you know, and see how things are going today. And it's and they've been very gracious. I mean, to be honest. And so I think for the most part, people really do respect it. And if they don't, they know who they are and they probably should. Because if it weren't for a lot of these tournament directors, this stuff just wouldn't happen.
And you made a very good point. You'll never appease.
Well, no, you're not. You know, you're not going to. It's like you're never going to appease your kids.
No, well, my whole viewpoint of that is like me as a parent. You know, I've got a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm not here to be their friend. I'm here to be their dad. And my dad always told me.
Heard that lately?
No, I haven't.
My dad told me if your kids don't like you when they're growing up, that means you're doing your job.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's kind of the same aspect with the tournament director.
At times it can be, and you know, and look, here's the deal. You know, we all get that 40-year-old adolescent or 30-year-old adolescent kind of thing mentality when we're fishing a tournament, because you think about it, type B personalities typically aren't the ones fishing tournaments, right? I mean, the ones that are hard and fast are type A personalities hard in the paint, and they're focused. You know, and so you've got to be able to operate within that spectrum.
In it to win it, baby.
Yeah, in it to win it. Absolutely.
No. So,
what else is on your list?
When we were talking about this, where, you know, if I go out west and fish a tournament, all I have to say is my last name. And they're like, oh, you're Rich's kid. Oh, you're Richard's kid. Or you go out to a tournament, I wouldn't say local, but like a tournament here in Texas, Tennessee, wherever the hell you go,
Yeah.
you're known. Now, here's the effing deal. You said this earlier. Since you started KBF, and before that, to when you left, you know, Guillermo said it on the last. I mean, I mentioned it, but he was in full agreement of it. You just said it earlier. You are considered a legend in this industry.
I just don't take that seriously.
Not Will Smith. Legend.
Well, let's hope not, because
No, you're like Yoda.
Like,
well, I can handle the Yoda thing.
There we go.
And Will
But-
Smith, maybe you can back sand on that one.
Yeah,
I said you're not Will Smith.
I know.
Are you
Thank
listening?
God. Why would
Anyways,
you bring it up?
But you're considered a legend in this industry. What are your thoughts on that?
I look, here's the deal. In all honesty, and you know me well enough, I
hope so.
I
I'm
wouldn't
your son.
hope, but I just look. I appreciate it. Seriously, I appreciate the comment, but as you well know, I don't take myself that seriously. I just don't. It's just not my deal, and it doesn't. I don't know. I just don't take myself that seriously. At the end of the day, I appreciate the sentiment and the comment, and that may be the case. Maybe, I don't know, but I think the only way, kind of, if you're at that state and you want to, I think you kind of have to stay there.
Yeah.
And you have to keep being proactive and doing stuff, and so, you know, I mean, I'm happy with what I did while I was in it as a tournament guy.
Yeah.
And obviously my aspect in this industry has changed now as a rep, and you know, and working with people and trying to kind of help mentor people down a road that they, you know, that it's going to benefit them in their careers.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of where I want to be, but I really like kind of being behind the scenes, to be honest. I don't need to be up front in front of the camera. It's just kind of not my deal. But yeah, so I mean, I hear it, I kind of snicker at it, and I appreciate it at the same time, if that makes sense. I just don't. You don't see me running around the house with my chest popped up or a shirt that says the legend.
No, and that's the
moving
thing.
forward.
I mean, I think you can agree to this a little bit. Is, you know, everything you've done for this industry, every person you've talked to, you know, giving that leadership advice to, I mean, you're very humble about it.
Well,
and I think that's one thing that a lot of people should maybe learn, or maybe, like, you know, take in, is because a lot of these other bigger names of just people just think think they are the shit.
But I think that, you know, you say humble, and I think that is the deal. And I go back to, you know, it's not a name dropping thing, but I mean, it's. So I ran into, like, I don't know. I mean, he and I see each other usually at ICAST and talk, have a really good conversation, and had him on the podcast, obviously. But we ran into each other a couple years before that in a bar in Florida.
Yeah.
And we hadn't seen each other in probably like 3-4 years. And I just, hey, bro, how are you doing? And he just grabs me. And he's like, you know, dude, have things ever been going so well that you're scared that it's going to change? You know, you're scared what's coming next? And I'm like, I completely get it.
Yep.
You know, but that piece of that conversation, and it was a very humble conversation. And the conversations that I've had with, and he's one of those great examples of, man, that dude's incredibly successful in this industry, you know, across the board. And you want to talk about somebody who can't kind of change the game in the way things were done from a marketing perspective and everything else on the boat side.
Yeah.
He's that guy, you know, or one of them. But it was just this. And he has those humble conversations. I mean, I remember him talking to, you know, Adam J at ICAST a couple years ago, you know, them getting together doing some stuff. But
that was hilarious because I was standing right in between them, like, oh my God.
But but that conversation was a very humble conversation. It was not, there's no egos running in that room. You know, none. And I think at the end of the day, that's the deal. You got to just put your effing. We're grown ass adults.
Yep.
Put your ego aside, and if you've been successful, if you are successful, and this worked with me very well in the military, it ain't about you anymore. If you're at the top of that food chain, bitch, you better be grabbing those people that are going to take your place when it's over, because your ass ain't going to be around forever. It's just not. Yeah. And so drag them along.
Yeah.
Pull them alongside. You've got to mentor these. You got to mentor them. Male, female, doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to know who they are. You will figure out real quick who's ready to take that next step and put the work in. And, and be there. I mean, I remember going to a tournament in Tennessee, and Steve-O was reluctant to take the stage and get on the mic. Right? He was the tournament director. And we had a brief conversation, and we've had conversations since then. But if you go look at him today versus, I don't know, freaking 6 years ago, whatever it was, it's night and day.
Yeah.
What did he do? He worked on his craft.
Mm-hmm.
He listened to anglers, but he worked on his craft, and the dude's putting on some killer freaking events for bass.
Absolutely.
He's at the pinnacle of the deal.
Phenomenal. He does a phenomenal job.
But you know what? You know who else Steve talks to? He talks to AJ. And what is AJ doing? AJ's mentoring. That's what we're supposed to do. And I think some people just fundamentally effing miss that. That it's okay to bring people alongside and be happy with their success. And if they're more successful than you, that's okay too. It's all right. Be comfortable in your own skin. It's okay.
I think it's kind of like that old head mentality. It's fire service. One of the things, the older guys, they're meant to train the rookies and, teach them because they've been there, they've done that.
Right.
But at the same time, they kind of hold on to some of those skills because they're like, man, I don't want this kid to one-up me, because they know they're getting. So I think a lot of maybe some of the senior people in the industry, they do want to mentor, but it's also kind of that mentality like, I don't want to lose my foothold.
Yeah, and I think that for me, that's that military side where, look, your ass is done at some point, right? You're going to go away. And you need, what was it, Jag said, you need me on that wall kind of thing, right? Was that A Few Good Men?
The damn movie
was it A Few Good Men? I can tell you.
It was.
It's when he's sitting on the stand.
It's when he's sitting on the stand, right? But that's the thing. You need these people. You need, because without them, you're not going to be successful. And so I just think at the end of the day, you have to kind of, it's okay.
Shit, I've learned from you. You touched my soul.
Oh, for the love of God.
Whoa.
I'm gonna leave it alone.
Whoa.
I could go somewhere with that, but I'm gonna leave it alone for now. In today's X-rated episode.
Nope.
Okay. So, kind of slow it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You're an independent rep now for multiple companies.
Yep.
I'm only half a rep according to some people.
Half a rep, yep.
Okay. But in your time of being a tournament director to being an independent rep now,
mm-hmm.
What has it changed your perspective on how the paddle sports industry is ran between being a tournament director and being an independent rep?
Ooh, that's actually a good question. Yeah, I mean it has, because I think you're really when you're focused on the tournament scene, your focus is here, right? And so you only know what you know from a tournament and what the people are doing that are fishing these events at the end of the day. What you don't pay attention to is what's driving sales in a dealer, for a dealer. What anglers are coming in that are allegedly team, pro staff, whatever, what they are and are not doing. And I think when you get to that, when you flip it and go to the rep side or onto the sales, whatever side, you start paying attention to, what is the return on investment on XYZ team member, right? Are these cats that are getting discounts or free boats, what are they really providing? What are they doing? And so I think at that point you start recognizing real quick what anglers are and are not doing, what really is driving the market, what does the average everyday consumer come in and look for in a kayak, right?
I think you're looking at it from two different aspects. You know, as a rep, it's direct sales.
Yeah.
And then as a tournament director, it's basically business development. You're trying to cultivate and grow your trail to what it is and what you believe it can be. And you're just trying to develop relationships with people, whereas as a rep, you're directly impacted by ROI, sales.
But I mean, as an example, tournament director, frankly, I didn't give a crap about how many Hobies, Old Towns, Jacksons, Bonafide, whatever was in the natives were in the parking lot. Didn't care. Really didn't care. Now, as a Jackson team guy, I would go look for entertainment value, but it didn't affect my day to day. I really didn't care. It didn't matter. You know? And the only thing that I really would pay attention to is my job. I mean, what do we need to do better? And that was always the case. At the end of every event, what could we do better? Where did we screw this up? I always appreciated, and I did this when I was commander. It goes back to the Navy, but, you know, when I had sailors check out, give me my top 3 or top 5 and my bottom 5. What are the top 3 or 5 things I'm doing great? And what are the 3 to 5 things I'm doing that if you were in my spot, what would you do different? What would you fix? What's effed up? Frankly, I knew what was going to be in their top 3 to top 5, for the most part. Occasionally someone would catch me off guard with something, but very rarely. But that top 3 to the bottom 3 to bottom 5 was gold. Because if you had, and I treated it like fishing, it was like patterning bass. So if I had 3 sailors check out in the course of a week, and there was a couple things on their list that was the same, I'm like, oh, I got a problem. And so that's the same way I treated it with anglers. I'm like, well, what do we do really good? What do we not? And if I had that thing pile up, I'm like, okay, we got a problem. We need to fix it. And so from a tournament director perspective, I didn't give a crap about the rest of the stuff, frankly. It was what do we need to do to improve our events? I mean, it was the second NC? Well, it was just look, you're going to beep this out. It was a shit show.
It was. I don't think that was I think that was the third, right? Because they had an NC before.
I think it was the second one. I think the second one was a shit show.
You mean when we stayed up till 3 in the damn morning?
Yeah.
I slept on cardboard boxes.
Yeah, that one. I think it was the second one.
Dude.
Oh
my God.
But point being
Were you under a bridge?
No, he was not under a bridge. But there was a lot of lessons learned there, and so you have to make it better, and we did. Thankfully, by God, we made it better. Righted the ship, and we turned out some really good events.
Wasn't that the one Dwayne won?
No, that was Kurt Smits won that one. But as a rep, you start looking at because I pay attention to whitewater, I pay attention to wreck, and I pay attention to fishing. And if anybody thinks that tournament anglers move the needle on sales on fishing boats like a lot, they don't. They just don't. It's unfortunate. I mean, I'd love to design a boat with every tournament angler's mindset involved, which we've helped do. But there's things in there that a lot of weekend anglers just don't care about at the end of the day, right? And so if it cost XYZ to add this feature to a boat, but 80% of your fishing public doesn't care, they'd rather have a lower price. What are you doing? Are you adding that feature because your tournament guys want it? Or are you leaving it off so your 80% of your consumer base on the fishing side can afford it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, you pay attention. You pay a lot of attention to metrics. You pay attention to marketing. You spend a lot of time listening to what feedback dealers have and what their consumer base is coming in and asking for. I mean, great example. If a consumer your average consumer comes in and asks for a 10-foot boat, and that's what they want, and your next season you come up with a 12-foot boat, and it doesn't sell well, are you really asking yourself why?
No, you didn't listen to your consumer.
You didn't listen to your consumer, right? And so I think it goes back to listening to your customer. At the end of the day, your tournament fishermen are your customer, right? So that part's similar, but it's a much broader spectrum, I think, as a rep. There's more variables you're looking at, if that makes sense. A lot more variables. And then, the other piece too that I didn't have to deal with so much, but I think you do now, is what's the competition doing, right? So, we talked about motors earlier. Hobie's got to pay attention to the motor piece, right? Because that's what their competition's doing. And just like, Native and Bonafide this year, they've done a really good job. They've released, I think Big Adventures have released like 9 new boats across their line this year. No other frickin' manufacturer's done that. And, so they picked an interesting time in the market to go in hard in the paint. They went and invested deep in and across all their lines, and so, but what have they really done that's innovated? And so you say, okay, well, go look at the features on the Titan X. Just the power aspect, the little consoles that you can add power stuff to and not have to really tear into your boat, right? You're not drilling holes in the hull. You're drilling holes in this little piece that when you want to go sell your boat, you just replace it.
Swap it out.
Swap it out and you're done. Is that innovative? Yeah, that's innovative, right?
That's thinking ahead.
Mm-hmm. And so you look at those things and you go, okay, but that's so Jackson, Hobie, Nuke. Just pull in the rest of them. Everybody's got to look in Old Town. What's the competition done? Old Town's got their EPDL this year. Is that going to be a success? Who knows? The jury's out. If you take the average dealer right now, I would say it's a high success rate.
Well, it's also one of the most, if not the most expensive boat on the market.
Well, it is in the buy-in on it.
Isn't it like $6?
It's $6,000.
It's $6,000, but
so it's the same as XPA.
Yeah, it's the same as an IPA.
Yeah, but you don't get shark teeth.
True, you don't get shark teeth, but you could probably buy some off Amazon.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, is that what the consumer base, is that what they want? And they put it in their most unsuccessful hull. I don't know. I don't understand it. But at the end of the day, maybe that's what their analytics told them, and we'll see how that plays out. I don't know. That's not something I was involved with. Obviously, I don't work with Old Town, but yet again, that's what the competition's doing. And so, Hobie's got to look at that. Jackson's got to look at that. New Canoe's got to look at that. And you got to think about, okay, how is the consumer base going to respond to these things? And right now, I think the big adventure piece on the fishing side is probably the more relevant thing that's come to the market. We'll see how the boat sales go, but I think that they picked an interesting time to go in hard in the paint, and it's one of those it's one of those investment strategies, right? If you've got the money when the market's low and you can go down at a lower cost, and you can go and invest, you invest.
Capital management.
Capital, right? And that's Jackson went in on whitewater, with their new flow. Obviously, it's probably not a whitewater audience, but and that flow is just frickin' raking it, But that's Jackson's deal. They lead in whitewater, period, hands down. So that's another thing I miss in the West. Ironically, whitewater
in the West. Yeah,
and that's another piece too that I would love for our fishing community to be able to have the same level of stoke that whitewater has.
I would drown.
I'm not saying you got to get in the water. I'm not saying you got to get in a boat.
It's the same thing I said.
Yeah, he did. He's like not going to. But if and we've had some of our Jackson's had some of their team guys go to some whitewater events. But if you looked at the level of just how stoked that community is about what they do, regardless of brand they're in, just the stoke about what they do day in and day out, it's amazing. And if we could somehow get that, I think, on the fishing side, we win.
I've seen the whitewater crowd.
Yeah.
It's a very energetic group of people, and I think it's really cool what they do. But I think they're all nuts.
Well, that's part of it.
They're crazier than
Have you
outhouse
seen
rat.
the crab Dane Jackson does?
Yeah,
Well, the flip in and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Lindsay, I know, would raise my life insurance policy to $5 million. She's like,
Oh,
come on.
1,000%.
Yeah,
She's
bring
like,
it.
1,000%.
hit that neck
Bring
on
it.
that rock.
Yep.
Yeah,
No,
there you
1,000%.
go.
I'm gonna give us a quick
Yeah.
break real quick. So I gotta piss.
Imagine that.
But
What do you got left? How long we been going?
we got one last question.
All right, good.
That's the question you asked me to keep in.
Oh, you're. Yep.
The what one?
Oh, it's the Chris Zaldane.
Hey, you know that's a felony offense, right?
What, a grown man holding a young man's wiener?
Damn it, I already told you that.
I hope that hurt that.
Does he cut his own mullet?
No. Nope. At least not this week.
Alright, I'm surviving.
He went and got a haircut when I did.
Outstanding. Yeah.
Huh? But I mean, we had, the mullet king, Jordan Marshall, stay with us too. So like,
We did. So good. Yeah. Old JM.
yeah,
Feels so much better now.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Good for you.
It's kind of built up. Finalizing everything.
Okay.
Bringing it all to a close. Because I'm just going to be honest. You are my dad. I'm going to just say whatever the hell I want. You like to talk. But it's perfect. Because this is a talk show. Now, leave it with one last thing that I want you to leave the audience.
Yep.
And probably some you already said to me, but also to him. I want you to give us one piece of advice, either in fishing or in life or both. What would you give the viewers right now?
What did I tell you I was going to say?
You didn't tell me anything, but I could probably guess.
What do you think it's going to be?
Keep moving forward or use the 2 ears you have more than the 1 mouth you have.
So, I'll tell you, I mean, for me, at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. And I've told you this a lot. In fact, all of your siblings have this one, and it's, our mistakes don't define us. It's how we recover from them that does. If you're going to fall forward. They kind of go hand in hand. And the last one, the last piece of it is do the right thing. And the right thing is not always what's written. Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, you just do the damn right thing. That's it. Pretty simple.
Now, how do you dictate the right thing from the wrong thing?
Gut. For me, that's what works. It's a gut thing. And
Solid.
if and look, I'm not saying I've always made the right decision, because there's times, this kind of goes back to your mistakes don't define you until you recover from them. That does, right?
Yes.
But for the most part, I know. If it feels wrong, it's probably wrong. And I've made plenty of effing mistakes in my life, and it's just own it, own your shit, and just, do the right thing.
If you mess up, fess up.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. There you go.
Well,
Do you have anything to add or anything else?
I feel enlightened
Oh, Lord.
leaving here. Feels so
No.
much smarter, which, there wasn't a lot to begin with. But,
For the love of God. You guys are killing me.
no, thank you for
My
taking
pleasure.
the time.
My pleasure.
Not only coming on the show, but hosting us this evening. Truly means a
It's
lot.
more like hosting you. I live here.
I was
That's
trying to
true.
give you a bit of a doubt that you
Yeah.
had gotten your own place and
Everybody
grown up
knows.
slightly.
Everybody knows I
Yeah,
live
it's
here.
no mystery.
Yeah.
Everybody
Here's
knows.
Jake's room right here
Yeah, right here in
I
this
live
cooler.
in the
in a
cooler.
Ryan 65.
But go ahead.
No, you kept going.
I'm fixing to end it.
That's what I was
Grip it and
trying
rip
to
it.
do.
Yeah, grip it and rip it.
There you go.
No, but Dad, I appreciate. I know we were supposed to do this last week, but I appreciate you, taking time out of your day because you are busy. You work around the house quite a bit. You do a bunch of independent rep stuff. Hence why I'm only half a rep because I do jack and you know what.
Yep.
But no, we both appreciate you coming on.
Oh no, my pleasure, and hopefully this thing didn't get too long-winded. But good job. Hope you guys.
We're an hour and 3 minutes in.
You're going to cut some stuff out of this stuff. Make it a two-parter then. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, whatever.
I think it's good.
20-minute segment.
Shit.
People want to hear the truth and the reality.
Yeah. Well, one would hope, but some people can't handle the truth and reality, so we'll see how that plays out.
And we're quoting A Few Good Men again.